And this song's to all of y'all because it talks about never give up, always endeavor, persevere, because you're going to make it to where you want to be, you know. Oh, miss on my kid, I'll wait, I'll no miss on my gaze, I'll wait, alone, Chawana is happy.
Welcome to the Humboldt Dax YouTube channel. I'm Doc, and this time I'm with my Uncle Wotko. We're visiting family, and he agreed to sit down with me and talk a little bit about Muscogee hymns and his life work with that and his experience in the film Mekko and the Reservation Dogs. So stay tuned, hang with me. Let's get to it. So I'm here with my Uncle Wotko. We're visiting Carson City, and I wanted to take an opportunity to kind of just have a conversation with him and ask him about a few things. And one of the stories I wanted to share is we used to have family reunions when we lived in Merced County, and we lived in McSwain, and in the early 80s. And we had a couple of horses, and the one story I'll share real quick is my mom had a horse buck, and our neighbors had these two white horses. And I remember my mom telling Uncle Wotko, like, they've been broken, but they haven't been ridden in forever, and they were unrideable. And he's like, oh yeah, sure. And so, he was so nice about it. But then we went out a little while later, and he was actually over in their property, and he was riding one of those horses bareback. And if anybody knows anything about riding horses, riding bareback, it makes my booty hurt just thinking about it. But anyway, that's just an early story. That was back in the early 80s. But yeah. One of the things, so my Uncle Wotko was part of the Muscogee Nation, and he was inducted into the Muscogee Living Legends in 2016. And he spent a lot of time studying the Muscogee hymns, and it's a really deep part of their culture. And I wanted to ask you, first of all, before I go too far, he's also served in Vietnam, so Uncle Wotko is also a Vietnam veteran as well, served in the Army for 4 years, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about the cultural significance to the Muscogee people with regard to the Muscogee hymns, and I know you've put out a couple of the CDs, and I just wanted to ask you a little bit about that.
Yeah, but first of all, I think I left Nevada in 2003, and I didn't know any of my songs. And it was funny because the kids had grown up and they were gone. And Sue asked me, said, you always wanted to be with your people.
Yeah.
And now's the best time, the kids are gone. And I took her up on it, but I felt a release that I was happy with me going because of what she said. It was like a release. We did what we can do with the kids.
Yeah.
But we're still good friends. I mean, that's why I'm still here. And I guess that's the adult way it's supposed to be, though. You shouldn't have no grudges.
Yeah.
There's so much of that going on anyway. But anyway, I was going down there to help my mother and father until they left this world, which I did. But finding out the cultural ways they helped me and not really knowing that they were. They taught me all the songs, too.
So how did you learn the old songs?
My dad was teaching me. When I came back, he would preach his way. And once they sang a Hallelujah on the piano, and my dad got up to speak and said, I sure appreciate y'all doing that, but we don't use instruments we use our own voices because it's so beautiful that way, our voices. And he said, I appreciate you, I wouldn't do that anymore. And my dad had passed away. My mom says, I'm going to teach you these songs, but I'm going to sing them the way a man does. I said, I didn't know there was a difference. But my dad also told me that he said, he said, when you learn these songs are going to take you places. And they sure have. They've taken me from the East Coast to the West Coast, and shit, sharing these songs of our people, of our struggles, and that's what our songs are talking about. Never giving up, persevere. Don't ever look back. We're going to the new land. We're going to the new land. And that when you say culture, when I hear that word, it just means that you was just brought up in that. That was your life in that culture.
Yeah.
And that's true. It's not a religion, nothing. It's the way of life, and that's the way we see. We don't call it a religion. We just call it it's the way of life, and that's the way the Creator wanted us to be, to take care of this earth, which is not being happened. We got so much being extracted from in there. Something's going to happen,
Yeah.
but it's all because of greed.
Yeah.
It's all because of greed. But anyway, these songs. They taught me, and I incorporated one of them in the play that I was in, and it's really people come up to me after the theater's over with, after the play's over with, and some are crying. I said, "Man, we don't know what you were saying, but we felt it." Yeah. So, well, that was the hurt that our people were witnessing. Is the way they sing their songs, But that's what it is. That culture is coming out of these songs when I sing them this way.
Yeah.
And my dad sings it a certain way, and that's the way I sing them, the way my dad does. Everybody's got different ways of singing them. But I made CDs, and I made these CDs with a very notable artist named Dana Tiger. Her dad was a well-known artist, but she, through her, she said, "Well, I get a percentage of it." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I don't mind about that, but I'm not a business person." I said, "You can just have it all." I don't know. What I do is I buy them off of her, and I'll just give them out. I said, "You can't put a price on this."
Yeah.
And if you're sincere, I'll give you these. So I made 3 of them, and I'm starting to see some young people now. It's taken a while, but I have one young man that usually goes with me when I go on trips, and he learned all the songs.
Passing it to the next generation, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's going to pass it on. Right now, he's getting ready to do a sweat. I've taught him how to do the sweats. And he's got people coming over tomorrow, and they're going to do a sweat. It's a healing sweat for some people who, are not feeling well.
Yeah.
But, that's part of that culture. I love that he's learning that. And it's just awesome,
It's really,
It's awesome.
I mean, it's got to be important to keep the tradition alive
Yes,
and
keep
keep
it
that
alive.
part of the culture going, and your contribution to that. I'm sure your people really appreciate that too.
There's at our ceremonial grounds, I think about the same thing, because when we're out there, this is something that was done before 1492's history started.
Yeah.
And the names that we pick are from way back in those days, and they stay alive. They keep those names alive. And my name was given to me after 4 days of being out there. 4 years was Joshua Harjo. That means the Wandering Beaver. The Wandering Beaver. But those are sacred names, and we really... And when I get on the grounds, that's my name. And when I leave, it's Wotko.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really important to stay centered in your
Yeah, it
in your
is. It
culture.
is.
And, yeah.
I like to see the younger ones too who are dancing, and I'm reassured that it's going to survive when I see the young ones out there, and they're dancing all night,
Yeah.
dancing until the sun comes up, and we're fighting that urge to go to sleep, and that's all part of it. And we're always still struggling, that's the meaning of it. When we're trying to stay awake and just keep on dancing, they say, keep on dancing, keep yelling,
Well, it's got to be gratifying to see the younger generation coming in and learning from you all being the elders and,
Yes,
and
yes.
passing it along and, being, kind of being centered in that way. And it's got to feel good, to pass along the culture. And
There's something else I want to say is that when I left here though, and I left Sue here, I went back and I found somebody I don't want to ever lose again. And that was me. And I think I changed my life then, people call it the Red Road, the Indian Road. And I think that's when I found myself. I was out in this world and trying to struggle and live their way when I can just be me.
Yeah.
And just like you said in that movie, Mekko, I was just me,
Yeah.
And it's a learning process,
Never ends.
It
huh?
never ends. It never ends till that last breath leaves you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a good segue. And I wanted to ask you about the movie Mekko. Obviously, it came out in, I think, 2015.
Yeah.
Of course, it's one of my favorite movies because you're in it. It's just, it's a trip seeing you in there. But I just wanted to ask you about how that came about, how you were approached to do the movie Mekko and your character, Bunny. And I know we were talking earlier about when I watch the movie and I see you're delivering your lines, I'm like, that's just Uncle Wotko talking. That's just you. And
Hey, Mekko! Me, Bunny, man. Hey, Bunny.
God damn, man.
Oh, man. Good to see you, man.
I know you're not a traditional actor, but how did that movie come about? How were you approached? And then when they wrote your character for you, Bunny, and like your whole experience going through that.
Yeah, I think I did a documentary first with Sterling Harjo, and that was pretty big. We went up to Utah with it, and it did pretty good up there. But after that, things settled down. But then he came up with this movie, and he asked me, "How would you like to be in a movie? I'll be a homeless person." I said, "Well, I used to be a homeless person." I said, "Yeah, I'll check it out."
And that's Sterling Harjo, right?
Yeah, Sterling
and he's
Harjo.
Creek as well.
Yeah,
correct?
Creek and Seminole, yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember the first day I went up there, and it was a wardrobe in this room, and it was all homeless people clothes. And he was, "All right, just pick something you want to wear." And I was going through there, and I was looking, and I looked at him, and he goes, "Just wear what you got."
Well,
Yeah, it was.
yeah.
It was an old army jacket I was wearing and old shoes.
Well, and you're Vietnam veteran too, and the other thing I wanted to point out is a couple of scenes, and I know we talked about it a little bit. Again, it's like right after you meet Mekko, this scene where you're like, Bunny, and that's you. But right after you're walking down the sidewalk, and I realized during that time you were filming, you had knee surgery, and I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I know why you got it. Kind of a hitch in the giddy up, but it's interesting how they kind of weave those sort of things. And again, when I was watching your character, I'm like, that seems like it's just you being you.
Hey, why your name for? What happened?
Oh man, it's wrecked 10 years ago. Pounded these cement walks, man. Makes you weak at the knees.
The two other characters were played by Rod, the main character, and Zahn. Well, Rod was Mekko, the character Mekko,
Yeah.
which the movie was about. And in the beginning of it, it really kind of sets up the movie, kind of what it's about and what his role is, and and you're speaking Muscogee in the beginning of it, but they mentioned that he was a seer and what happened to the town.
Supposed one, Keithley the West, Wheaton, Gajetan, Imagothetski, Ejin, Olagan.
Fast forwards 19 years after coming out of prison, and then that's where the life of, it's kind of realistic here, talking about being downtown Tulsa. I mean, I thought it's a pretty important movie because there's a lot of reality in the way he was able to. He's such a good producer too, by the way, in my view. But
Yeah, we're all the Johnnies out here. We all look out for each other.
But we still kind of have a...
you were down by the river the day after. The morning you were singing a hymn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you about what that hymn, the name of it, and what that hymn was about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just talking about we're all going. We're all going to go to that place. We need to pray. We need to pray.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bikusapal hape hiana bikusapal happy
when the confrontation, it was like, when you confronted him, in the movie, and it's like, man, I've been to a war, and I'm like, that's true. And you were wearing the army jacket. I just thought it was fascinating.
Oh,
When
yeah.
you
You think you are? You think I'm scared of you? I fought in a fucking war. You just don't know when to be quiet.
I'll tell you this. I'm glad they didn't show the scene where you took the crowbar to the head.
Oh,
They mixed that out. I'm like, good, because I don't honestly want to see that. Honestly, but what was it like working with Rod and Zahn as far as
it was
working with them?
It was awesome, because like you said, it's gonna be my first time in front of the screen doing a major part in there, and I didn't really meet Zahn until we were all standing around on this one corner where all the homeless people stand, and they told me, they said, he's gonna be up here today. I don't know where he's at, and I was standing there with Rod, and he came up. And he acted like he was a badass motherfucker. He scared the shit out of me.
He was in character already.
Yeah, he was in character.
Yeah.
He goes, "What's up with you guys? Y'all start some shit?" I said, "Oh shit, man." I said, "That's your partner." There.
He was there already.
Yeah. And he had tattoos and everything. But he scared the hell out of me. I said, "Man, you're pretty good."
Such they're actors. They've been in several movies, both of them, and they're both such good actors too. But I swear, when I was watching you interact with him, like, I didn't see a lot of gap as far as that's concerned, and you did such a good job again too. So when the character Bunny was written for you, and when Sterling was writing that for you, how did he pitch to you, what your lines were going to be and what your character was about, and did he really write it just around who you are as a person and weave it into the character Bunny?
That's how I eventually confessed. I agreed to myself that that's what it was, that he was saw me in this character that he was making. And he goes, yeah, and you'll fit real good in it. And then I started reading it. Yeah, that's pretty good. I said, I will. But that's when he was I was acting, I was trying to do some acting with this character. He goes, no, Wotko, you just be yourself. Just read this all. And he's got an eye for people,
Yeah, it really came through too, because I know you, so I could tell when I was watching you on scene. I'm like, I'm no acting person at all, but like, you just kind of you being you, which is why I think you came to me again. I might be biased too, but because you're my uncle, but that's the way it came across to me. And how much ad-libbing did you do in some of those scenes that made the final cut? Because it seemed like some of those are some of the things you say anyways, but how much leeway did Sterling give you as far as ad-libbing and adding your own comments when you were doing those?
He did. He just let it, there was no limit. He was just whatever. He said, let's see what we can do with it.
Okay.
And that's what I liked about it,
Cold out there, man. Just help us out tonight, please.
Don't come back.
Never again. Never.
Don't come back.
Never. Make you swear, man.
Yeah. Well,
and the part where there was a line I was struggling with, we're sitting against this fence, wrought art fence, and I'm talking about the sweat lodges. That was, I just came up with, But
on the moment, huh?
Yeah, it was supposed to go along with it, but, it made the cut.
We want people to build our sweat lodges, purify ourselves, get that evil out of us. And then I like the next morning when you wake up and the dew is on the ground and you smell the aroma of the fire and the rocks and the sage that was in the sweat lodge that morning. What a beautiful way to wake up.
Well, and you were talking when you were in the diner with Mekko, and you're talking about just, wouldn't that be great to just go back to the land? And I swear, I was watching, I'm like, oh man, you're just being you, and it seems so natural. And I know Sterling Harjo is a very talented director and a writer, and I just thought, man, for him to have brought you out that way in the movie, I thought it was pretty awesome. Again, I might be biased because, I'm uncle and all that, but I thought that was really cool. And then, so that kind of leads to my next sort of, wanted to ask you about how Reservation Dogs came about. It's, for those of you that may or may not know, is a Hulu series that I think it was all 3 seasons you were in.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. And that was fairly recent, but I think your character was the the security guard, but I noticed they also just called you Wotko when you were in the scenes. And
Yeah.
I remember watching every episode going, where are you at? And I know I texted you that one time, but how did that come about going into Reservation Dogs and how your character came about and what your experience was doing that series?
Yeah, you know, oh shit, it was. I remember when he was telling me, he said, "Yeah, we're gonna do it's gonna be a big series here." He said, "I got a part here for you, and you're gonna be a friend for the old man Fixico, you know, because there's parts in there where when the storm's coming, we're sitting there together,
Yeah.
eating popcorn and stuff, you know."
Thank you, creator.
Asking me for favors.
And there's a lot that they cut out. It seems like there's always a lot that you think that they were going to show, but they don't. My lines were longer than that, but they, for some reason, the guy who was doing, you know, the editing, you know, cut that out. And there's a lot of scenes in there that I really loved, especially when we was coming into the church as the ministers with the dead body, and they cut that out. It was supposed to be the people were getting ready to sit down, you know, as we're walking there and singing that song.
Yeah.
And yeah, they cut that out. But yeah, he asked me, "Do you want to do that?" I said, "Yeah, you bet I do. You bet I do." I read it, and yeah, it was just an older man, you know. That's what I like about it. I get the older parts of it, you know.
You get to be yourself, basically, right?
Yeah, it is basically.
How many episodes were you in? I remember in the first season, the first episode, I'm like, where are you at? And I noticed you were in the background. Actually, the security guy, oh man, and I was waiting for every season to come in.
Yeah.
Had right in my crosshairs.
Got anything for stomach aches?
A couple, the episodes in season 2.
Yeah, and at season 1 we were in that. I remember we was in the cellar. That tornado came.
Oh,
down.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's where, and I forget what Bear was the character, and he goes, "Hey, Wotko." I'm like, okay, they're just using you.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I got you. Yeah.
She goes again.
Wotko. Hey, did you see my mom today?
Who's your mom?
Big actors in there again. Again, Zahn was in there. He did such a good job. He's such a good actor.
Yeah,
He shows a lot of. I mean, listen, I'm no expert, but to go from Mekko and that character, and he's been in some other pretty significant movies, but he was so good in Reservation Dogs.
Oh, yeah. That's organic. Yeah.
I think I need to leave.
What? Yeah, what? Hey.
So we're just talking about Reservation Dogs and some of the big actors that were also part of that. Not in addition to Zahn, who was he's a pretty good actor. He's got quite a range, and he did such a good role as the tribal police. But Bill Burr was in there, Bobby Lee was in there, Kirk Fox. I'm fans of all those people.
Oh, crazy Kenny. I always said you could make it as a stand-up comedian. Too many joke thieves out there. I'm not gonna do that.
It means I shouldn't fight for like a while, right?
No, fight all you want.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know if you got to work with them, but did you get to meet them, and how were they?
I got, you know, there's points where you can meet them because they're watching too as they're doing the production there, and just come up, just want to talk to them, you know, talk to them a little bit. They're all friendly though. I mean, probably once you really get to know them, you know, maybe you do like them or don't, you know.
So you just met them kind of on set. And,
yeah, that's about it. Yeah,
that was really.
It was good to meet them, and then, yeah. But you know, nowadays when I go to different sets now and they're there, yeah, hey Wotko, they remember me. And I like that Wotko.
Well, I mean, you're a pretty distinct person. I mean, you know, you're a legend over there too. You know, I mean, let's give you some credit. But which leads me to the other. You were in the play Between Two Knees.
Yes.
And it was shown up at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. Pardon me, as I'm getting tired. But and we came up and saw you, and that was a couple years ago. And so, what was that experience? And you also went to Princeton University and did some shows there. So what was your experience doing that play? Because it's not like you're on set where they can say, okay, action, and okay, let's redo that and do it over. Well, you're out there like on stage, and especially in Oregon where, you know, it's a circular sort of play there. And so what's it like acting live, and how did your role in Mekko and all that kind of play in to kind of prepare you to go and full-fledged play like that.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you brought that one up because that was a big change in my career in show business. To be live every time you go on, you know. It was kind of frightening my first play up in Ashland. But I remember getting the lines and, you know, we rehearsed for about 2 months, you know, over and over again. And then I would go in the mountains and I would record everything over, you know, just kind of brainwash yourself.
Yeah.
But it never really sunk in, you know, and I've seen everybody else, they were learning their lines. I said, what is it? What is it? And they said, then all of a sudden they said, well, we're not finished yet. We're gonna get on stage now. We're going to have little props so you know where you're moving and how to react to everything, you know, and it helped out. And they said, when you make these movements, you're going to remember the lines. Yeah, you won't have to remember them. These movements that we make every time.
Acting tips. There's an art to it, isn't there?
Yeah. It is. Oh, it made me cry one time after the second show, where I do that part where my son is dead, you know, and I sing that song, and they were just, oh man, Wotko, you should have been here a long time ago. And I said, I'm just doing what I do.
Yeah, live life. Here you are now. Huh?
Yeah, and I liked it because they supported me even when I fucked up on stage.
Yeah.
There was one time I just forgot a whole line, man. I was standing there, but it was a part where our son, you know, lights changed to my son and then us. My wife and I were talking, and I was sitting there and I just forgot my lines, and she started saying my lines, trying to get me to go, and I just, all she could say was help.
Act like you meant it.
Yeah. But they said, man, if you stop, just say anything. Yeah. Say anything close to it. And I picked that up, and then sometimes I'd mumble out something.
How many shows did you do up in Oregon?
God, we did over 130.
Wow. Did you feel like after you did a few, it just started flowing at some point? Did you hit that stage? Or?
Yeah, it is, and you know, they say you get bitten by the bee, about the acting bee. But I remember one time I came up here and I had the night before, man, I had this nightmare, man. And we're on stage, and I'm the only one that didn't know my lines, and I still have all the paperwork, and I'm coming on the stage, and they're falling, and then I'm trying to pick them up, trying to find my lines. And I told them that, and the art director said, hey, everybody, Wotko have his first nightmare. And they said, all right, you'll be doing all right.
Just to help you ease into it. What a trip, huh?
It is. They're always supportive. And all right, I said, you're ready now. I said, I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, it's just awesome.
It's a good experience, huh?
And everywhere we went, what state we was in, man, I'd wake up, I said, man, I can't believe I'm here, man. Getting paid to be an idiot on stage, you know?
I mean, and I think we went early on in your shows, but I mean, I certainly couldn't tell, you know what I mean? And you did such a good job. Now, I know you did a couple shows in Princeton University, is that right? I don't know how many you did there. How many shows did you?
We did about 30 there.
Oh, okay.
30, yeah.
And that was fairly recent. How long ago was that?
And that was 2 years ago.
2 years?
Yeah.
Now, and I know we were talking earlier, is there any plans to take Between Two Knees and have more shows, or?
Yeah, they were going to try to do one this fall, but, you know, there's things they're still working on. And they promised us it's going to be next year in 2026. But we're going to be hitting mostly the states where there's Native people.
Yeah.
Population of Native people, because they need to see this. And I always thought it was so good that I got this. I said, this is me. I can protest and be funny at the same time.
Yeah,
you know,
because the message is there, and it's pretty clear. Right. I mean, there's some comedy in there, but there's a message embedded in the whole thing, and that's what I took out of that for
just
sure.
The fact that when I'm doing it just before the intermission, and I'm crying for my son, and then he's gone. Then I turn around, there's a knock at the door. Then it's comic all of a sudden, you know. Hey, it's a baby at the door, you know.
It breaks it up.
Yeah, it is. It's just knocked on our door.
Well, that's cool, and so I really appreciate you again sitting down with me. I know
man, I'm glad you did.
I know we're sitting in Aunt Susie's living room and all that, but I did want to take the opportunity when we're traveling through, and I've been wanting to do this for quite some time. So I really appreciate you participating, and it's always good to see you
Yeah.
too. So
Oh, you too. All you guys. Yeah, I still flashbacks of that one of them when I was riding them horses, and that's where I think of the restroom scene happened.
yeah, I wasn't. When I was growing up, I was really good being a smart ass. I was really good at it. Sorry, cousin, we won't say her name, but
Yeah.
she said I was going to get severely
Yeah,
punished.
you can get severely punished. Yeah.
And I did. So I earned that butt whipping. So, well, thank you so much for watching. This is my Uncle Wotko. Make sure you go watch the film Mekko. It's on Amazon Prime. It's a really good movie, first of all. And Uncle Wotko's in there as well. And if you're a fan of Reservation Dogs, he's in there as well, too. So thank you so much for watching. From my family to yours, celebrate others, respect yourself, because love is powerful, man. Thank you so much for doing this. All righty. Thank you. Appreciate it. Perfect. Hey, yeah, your number, pinky swear. Perfect, thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, you got it.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Oh, wait, hold on. I don't think the dog's going to be in the
Happy
picture.
look.
That's okay.
Perfect.
Show your shirts. Okay, what are you doing? Just
Thank you.
videoing?
Yeah,
You're
I'll
very
take,
welcome.
thank you so
Thank
much.
you.